I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores and extend a welcome to everyone in the chambers this evening. And the first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility to do so. There's none, then this evening we have one deputation, and it's Catherine Forsyth, and she's here from the Canadian Federation of University Women. Welcome, Catherine.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Let the suffragettes get settled. So am I good to go? Okay. So Mr. Mayor and Councillors, my name is Catherine Forsyth, and I am presenting this deputation on behalf of CFUW Southport, a member club of the Canadian Federation of University Women. And if some of you don't know, the CFUW has been around since 1919. We now have 107 clubs across Canada, about 19,000 members, and we are seen as the voice for equal education and opportunity for women and girls, not only in our own nation, but across the world with the International Federation of University Women. So we are just a little drop in the bucket of who we are tonight. And at first glance, we may appear a little lighthearted about this issue, but a little media attention is never bad, and let me assure you that we are here for a very serious reason. During 2013, our CFUW Southport Issues Group, under the guidance of Dr. Margaret Large Cardoso, identified the decline of democracy and voter turnout as a serious issue which must be addressed. We studied the issue and prepared a national resolution on the preservation of democracy. On behalf of our club, I presented the resolution at the AGM in the summer of 2014, and it was passed with a few edits from some of those 107 clubs across the country, because women always have a lot to say. The final version, now on the books, reads like this, and I know it's a lot to look at up there, so resolve that the Canadian Federation of University Women and its member clubs initiate, engage in, and promote activities and programs to educate all Canadians about the importance of participating in our democratic system of government and of exercising both our right and our responsibility to vote in all elections. And since we prepared, presented, and supported that resolution, it was only right that the Southport chapter would undertake a campaign to promote political engagement and voter participation within our own Saugeen Shores community at the grassroots level. Hence, you may have seen some of the suffragettes at the Marine Heritage Weekend festivities. And that's why we're here this evening as well, to ask for your support for our Grandma Asked Me to Vote campaign. And why do we want you to do that? Well, because a healthy democracy depends on an aware and an engaged electorate. And we don't seem to be doing a very satisfactory job in engaging our young people in Canada. The Canadian Index of Well-Being defines democratic engagement as the state of being engaged in advancing democracy through political institutions, organizations, and activities. Having the hard-won right to vote does not guarantee citizens will exercise that right. Canadian democracy is threatened by voter indifference. And that's been showing up since voter participation in the federal elections peaked back in 1958 at 79%, and it's declined ever since. And in the last federal election of May 2011, we had 61.1% of eligible voters participating. Women, a little higher percentage than men, and certainly the participation rates increased with age, especially for the advanced polls and special ballot usage. And according to Stats Canada, the top 3 reasons for not voting were not interested, didn't think their vote would make a difference, too busy, or I was out of town. Well, too busy and not interested, I'm not buying it, and neither should anyone. 148 years and our memory must be getting a little short. Suffrage, or the right to vote gained through the democratic process, did not occur that long ago. So let's take a quick little history lesson. And my mother, who was a previous history teacher, would enjoy this part, on the right to vote. So 1867, Canada's formed. There is no vote for women. From 1894 to 1918, the National Council of Women promoted women's political status, and 24 years later, they got the right to vote extended to women over 21 years of age, but only under certain circumstances. You had to be born in Canada and you had to be a landowner, two of those things. Finally, though, the right was given for women to vote, and in 1921, of course, the first woman elected to our House of Commons, Agnes MacPhail from Dundalk in Grey County, was elected. And now we see in the year 2000, almost all Canadian citizens over the age of 18 are eligible to vote. So that only took about 133 years to get organized. And that's why we don't want to sit by idly and watch people throw away that hard-fought right to vote or the responsibility to vote. So the purpose of our campaign is that the daughters, granddaughters, and even great-granddaughters of the women who fought so hard for that vote want to pass that passion on to younger generations. This campaign is going to focus on supporting community members, parents, and grandparents to encourage their young people to get involved in the upcoming election. We want to harness the power of the grandparent-grandchild relationship, and the campaign will provide nonpartisan information about the local voting processes, the local parties and their platforms, upcoming all-candidates meetings, and how to register to vote, especially if you're not going to be in your hometown when Election Day comes. So CFUW members will be visible as suffragettes over the summer and early fall, and we're going to be giving that information about why, how, and where to vote. And we'll also be making presentations to some local service groups to encourage their support and participation for this campaign. So, our goals then are to encourage all citizens to uphold the right and responsibility to vote. We want to use that intergenerational connection, and this might even give the generation something to talk about, to share the passion for democracy with the young adults in their lives. And we want to provide that nonpartisan information to increase participation in the electoral process and ultimately to increase the voter turnout rates. So, the question you're all wondering is, how can council help do this? Well, certainly we want you to talk about this campaign and the importance of voting with your own children and with any young adults you know. And we would love you to consider acting as a contact for any local service groups or committees that you are involved with, and share the information from our website. And I believe you might have got an information package ahead of time. I'm seeing some nods. Yes, so that's the kind of thing. And our little business cards that have that quick QR code that people with smartphones can just scan over, and it will take them right to all this information on our website. And we would like you to encourage other municipalities to get involved. And we were formally considering a challenge, but when we looked up the rates, Kincardine actually had a 75.5% turnout rate in the last federal election, and Saugeen Shores was only 68.4%. So maybe we're a little too early to challenge them, but if we can do as well as them this election, maybe next time around. But we were both above the national average of 61.1%, so that is good news. We are an engaged electorate, especially with the older adults in our community. And finally, we would like you to support the suffragettes whenever you see them around town. Don't run away or throw things at us, but if you want to come and engage and talk and speak about any issues, as I say, nonpartisan, we're not going to argue any politics with you, but just about the right to vote. So finally, we urge all of the council to support our Grandma Asked Me campaign and commit to assisting their fellow citizens in having their voices heard, because that is the only way that they will influence the decision-making process, and that indeed is what true democracy is all about. There we go.
Thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. I happened to be across the aisle from the suffragettes on Saturday, and they had a nice presentation. I did want to say, though, working at the last provincial election, and one of the suffragettes in the audience was at the polling station next to me working as well, there were a lot of parents showing up with a first-time voter in tow, and it was really interesting to watch. So I think you're onto something really good in terms of encouraging parents to just keep talking to young people and get them out to vote. And so I hope that the kids that we saw for the first time at the provincial election, they'll be back in the fall for this one. But thank you for the message.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Madison.
Thank you for your presentation, Catherine. In education, we call that bridging the gap, trying to get the girls more involved. The grade 10 history course, Civics and Careers, covers local elections and what happens. So it's not that they're not informed, it's getting them involved. And change starts with somebody taking a step, and you and the fellow suffragettes that are here and the Federation of University Women are taking that step. So through you, we hope, and I hope, that will bring more and more, not just girls, but everybody out to vote. So thank you for your attempts, and good luck.
Yes, and that's, I mean, clearly we are a women's organization, so that's the gist of the campaign, but we will speak to men and encourage them to have their grandsons vote as well. And the whole idea is that the new voters it's kind of a novel, great thing. That's kind of a keen group, but it's the in-betweens. It's the 25s to 45s that we're too busy. And yes, we all are, but we've got to find a way to reach out to them and make it easier. And that may bring up that electronic online voting issue again to say, how do we make this something that people feel they should take the time to do, but how do we make it easy for them as well? So who knows where that will go. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Catherine. I'm a member of CFUW Southport and a member of the issues group that launched this initiative. I know how hard this group has worked on this, and Catherine in particular. And I just wanted to say that CFUW Southport has a Facebook page. They have a website. And just today, they posted a very useful link to Elections Canada and their website where you can go and share that information so people can check and see if they're registered to vote and make sure, take care of those initial steps of what to do if you're not registered to vote. So it's a great resource, and that's another way we can get kids involved and engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. And just reminding me that one of those links there takes you to an online survey, especially for younger people who haven't maybe been too politically oriented. They can take an online survey, answer questions about some of the political issues of the day, and see which party their values align with. So it's not even so much who you're voting for, but what you're voting for. And I think it's important for them to see that too.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Catherine. Your enthusiasm is contagious, as usual. Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering if I see one of the points is to encourage other municipalities to get involved, and I'm wondering through you to the county if this is a message that we could relay on to Bruce County Council and encourage other municipalities to get involved. I see it's one of the requests, and wondering, Mr. Mayor, if that could be passed on to Bruce County Council.
Absolutely. If you have the packages, 8 additional packages, you can get them to me, and I'll drop them off to all county councillors before the next election. So you just drop them off at the office. We'll meet twice each month, and I'll take them down and deliver them to all the mayors.
Excellent. So that was 8.
8.
8. Got that? Okay.
Anything further? Well, thanks very much, Catherine, and thank all who came here to support you too. It's nice to see our council chambers full, or just about full.
Yes, thank you, suffragettes. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is a general government staff report, and it has to do with ATV bylaw amendment, and our clerk, Linda White, will present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in 2009, Council passed the bylaw to permit and regulate the use of all-terrain vehicles on municipal roads, and that's provided under the Highway Traffic Act and the Ontario Regulation 31603. Effective July 1st of this year, the regulation was amended to include 2 additional types of off-road vehicles, being the multi-purpose off-highway utility vehicle and the recreational off-highway utility vehicle. These types of off-road vehicles can now be allowed on municipal roads if permitted by the municipal bylaw. The town's existing bylaw only applies to ATVs, so the all-terrain vehicles, and accordingly, it's being proposed tonight that the existing bylaw be amended to include multi-purpose off-highway vehicles, and recreational off-highway utility vehicles. A copy of the draft amending bylaw, as well as the definitions for the types of vehicles, are provided in this report. I've also provided just a summary of what the current ATV bylaw provides. That's over and above the Highway Traffic Act. So I've got the draft bylaw for your consideration, and there is no financial impact to this report.
Thank you, Linda. Then the recommendation is that Council considers the attached amendment to Bylaw 3-2009 being the ATV bylaw. Comments, questions? Start with Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I think I was the one that brought this to the attention of the clerk, and the fact that the provincial government has seen fit to amend the regulations and define what is an off-road vehicle as opposed to a single-use rider ATV. They've expanded it, and I think it's it's right and it's a proper thing for the town to do to amend our bylaw. The use of ATVs in our town has proven since this bylaw was passed to be really not an issue, other than the fact that it brings economic activity and prosperity to the town through the people coming into town and renting motels and restaurants and gasoline and all those things. And I believe in talking with the police, there's been very few issues where there's been complaints raised where people have been abusing the privileges. And I speak in favor of this recommendation because the fact is that there are many more different types of off-road vehicles that are coming onto the market these days, and they're all being operated safely, and they need to have access to the facilities and trails that we offer in our municipality. So I'm in favor.
Thanks, Dave. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. What is the specific licensing required for somebody to drive these new types of vehicles? Is there? Does anybody know?
It's my understanding it's the same as it is for any other vehicle. You need a license and insurance and some safety, mandated safety equipment also. Okay. Well,
my question and comments are, I think our existing bylaw actually has a confusing element in it. This exclusion of Albert Street north and south. There is just a tiny section of Albert Street south in Southampton that's actually not the highway. It's sort of tucked in there. So just, you know, it's an odd little stretch that just for clarification, we should make note of that. But I also just want to confirm that this is not saying that people can drive them around town for purposes other than what it says very specifically here. It's from going from your home to a restaurant, a gas station, or lodging. It's very specific. I also do want to note that I don't, even though it says, the way it's worded here, it just says ATVs are prohibited in the town's parks, playgrounds, beaches, sidewalks, and I got to move the screen down here, and community center properties. We do not allow ATVs on any of the trails either. Is that correct?
On the Saugeen Shores trails?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From a higher view, maybe I asked Linda to consider easy search fields for the future, that this bylaw actually, and all bylaws have a worded title, and that this bylaw be changed to off-road vehicles. And that in the future, maybe I'll bring forward a new initiative to look at comprehensive bylaws that speak to all vehicles in the municipality, and this would just be a subsection of that. But in the meantime, my hope is that we can aid and abet those who want to look things up easily by giving our bylaws well-worded titles to go along with the numbering system. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Questions? All in favor of the recommendation then? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda then is the Community Services, Parks and Recreation Staff Report, and it has to do with the Southampton Town Hall Stair Replacement Project, and our Director of Community Service, Jane Jagielewski, will present.
Thank you. As part of the 2015 capital budget deliberations, Council approved proceeding with the replacement of the existing exterior stairs and railing leading into the Southampton Town Hall. The Town Hall is designated by bylaw as a significant building. The statement of significance that accompanies that designation identifies a number of specific exterior features, including that of the clock tower entrance stairway. As a result, staff is required to ensure that formal approval is received from Council prior to any work commencing on the significant elements of the structure. Staff has met with the Heritage Advisory Committee on site to review the design options provided by the architect and discuss the impact it will have on the building. Staff is proposing that the new steps resemble the current steps in their design. It is understood that the existing steps are not the original ones. Challenges will be with the grade on the north side as it has shifted somewhat since the last sidewalk installation. I've identified here the particulars of the railings. Some minor modifications may be made prior to finalizing the document based on the building permit review and any direction from council. Once the documents are complete, the project will be tendered for fall construction. The Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee recently passed a motion that supported the rounded stair design, and that was on July 15th. As part of the work, the non-operational flagpole will be removed and some remedial work to the sidewalk that abuts the steps will occur. In the financial impact, as a capital budget approved $50,000 to replace the steps and undertake the removal of the existing exterior lights.
Thank you, Jane. And the recommendation is that council approves the attached design for the exterior stairs and railing for the Southampton Town Hall. Questions or comments? All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the Community Services, Parks and Recreation report, and it has to do with staff report. It has to do with the Market Street bike corridor, and again, Jane will present.
In April, you'll recall that I presented a report to Council recommending in principle the implementation of a bike corridor on Market Street from the River Street washroom facility on the rail trail to the Harbour Street. The report indicated that there could be some impacts to some sections of the corridor where existing on-the-street parking is currently permitted. Since the report was initially brought forward, staff have been consulting with citizens along the corridor in regard to what a shared bike corridor represents. There has been some confusion as to what the final results might look like. These discussions clarified that widening of the roadway itself was not contemplated. Staff also took further review of the areas where on-street parking currently exists. It was identified that there is relatively low frequency of the actual usage of some of the on-street parking spaces, and their locations are generally in areas where relatively clear visibility. As a result, there may not need to remove any parking along the route prior to the establishment of the corridor. However, staff will monitor this to determine if the future needs warrant reducing parking to one side only or only on Sundays to accommodate church users east of Godrich Street. Traffic speed along the Market Street corridor road will also be monitored once the signage is in place. If approved, citizens will see decals and signs indicating the corridor is a shared route for both cyclists and vehicles, and that both users must be cognizant of the other users on the road. It is anticipated there will be installed by late fall, that the signs will be installed by late fall, and the on-pavement markings applied substantially. This will be set towards completion of the first urban east-west linkage of our trail system, and will certainly enhance the experience that our users obtain while traveling on our trail system. The approximate financial impact is $7,000 from the operating budget to apply the markings to the asphalt and install signage along the route.
Thank you, Jane. And the recommendation is that council approves implementation of the signage and sharrows necessary along Market Street corridor to identify Market Street and portions of River and Hilker Streets as a share the road bike corridor. Questions, comments? Start with the Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. Jane, the markings on the pavement will not be the same as what we did north of the river on the highway, because those chevrons seem to represent, whatever's happening with the Pan Am Games for, those accelerated lanes. So it's a different kind of marking that we're using, right? It's the real true sharrow.
You're correct. It is the marking that I shared with you in the April report, which is called a sharrow, which shows two arrows and a bike logo.
Okay. And your comment about the vegetation being removed, how many trees are coming down?
I spoke with the Director of Public Works today, and this is an analysis that he undertakes annually of all streets within Saugeen Shores, and Market Street was part of his analysis. At this point, he doesn't envision that there's going to be any, unless he's had some conversations with some owners along the area, but at this point, he doesn't envision that there's going to be any at this point.
Councillor Grace.
My question has been answered. Thank you.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I took the liberty to mail out for information pictures of other kinds of bike lanes and parking issues in other communities. And I asked in April, and I'm asking again now, I'm not understanding actually why Market Street, being a designated official plan collector road, it's a collector road, am I correct in the terminology? Why we think that adding bicycles to a road designed to increase the number of automobiles is the correct answer. I look at Elgin Street, I walk them both, and there's substantial difference, and they both have connectivity. Notwithstanding, I appreciate the work that Jane's put into this, and I think it's a positive move overall. I would just like us to review it and be prepared to make change if we find that it's not a workable situation. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important just to be clear that this didn't develop in the last couple of months or even in the last couple of years or even in the last many years. It started with the Parks and Trails Master Plan developed over a decade ago where this bike corridor was identified. And so it has been included and considered in multiple official plan updates over time. This is why we've signalized Market Street at Goderich was part of all that thinking, part of the thinking of the redesign of the road when it was reconstructed last year. This was taken into account. This has been long planned, long considered, long organized, and has been the public intention of the municipality to do for better than 10 years. So it's great to see it come to fruition. It's great to see it happening now, and I think it's been strongly supported by a lot of work that's been done through public consultation and by the administration for a long time, and that's great. I guess the one thing that I wanted to clarify or be clear on, the comments in here about parking, and you recall that when this came up in April, my concern, as always, is dozens and dozens of no parking signs being spread across residential streets in the municipality, and I guess I just want to be real clear that for the time being, at least, it is the view, your view, Jane, that updates or changes to the parking bylaw on this whole route will not be required, or at least will not be done immediately, and will be reviewed after the bike corridor is installed or once it's up and running. That was my big concern about this, and I was very reticent to see a lot of new signage telling people not to park on these streets go up. So I guess that's my understanding. That's correct. That's the way we're going to see it roll out.
That's correct. MTO Book 18, which is the manual we use as guidelines for this, strongly encourages no parking on the street. However, we realize that every case is a different. We've reviewed Market Street. We've looked at trends there. We've looked at parking there. And we certainly want to try it for a duration, leaving it status quo with the parking that's on there now. We've listened to the churchgoers as well and the church patrons there, and certainly issues with mobility with some of their parishioners needing to get access to the front entrance of the church is desirable. So based on those conversations, we're going to leave it as is.
Councillor Rich.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when this came out before, we had a number of emails come in, at least I did, and we talked about that. Do you feel as though you've had an opportunity to talk to everybody and all their concerns have been met?
Yeah, those that issue concerns, I've spoken one-on-one. I also offered to do a walking meeting down there where I would travel down Market Street if anyone wanted to come out and ask questions. They felt that based on the conversations I had with them, their concerns were rectified. They thought indeed it was an independent bike lane, which is not the case. There will be no line down the street that indicates bikes will be in this area. It will be shared usage, which really is an educational program for not only cyclists but people in vehicles.
And one quick follow-up. How often do we have to paint normally?
It's going to be a real trial for us because this is the first time we've done this. Obviously, we can't compare it to the North Shore Trail that does have paintings, decals on that road because that's obviously not plowed. So it's difficult for me to answer that right now, obviously annually. And what we do anticipate is that it will be done in the spring paintings when that's.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Mr. Mayor. Really a couple of comments. 129 people lost their lives in the province of Ontario between 2006 and 2010 as a result of cycling accidents. And I think, and that report comes right from the Ministry of Community and Safety and Correctional Services of the Office of the Chief Coroner. And I think, Jane, what we've done here, and I commend you, any way we can make our roads safer for our cyclists to travel on those same roads that vehicles are traveling on, I think we're doing the right thing. And I want to commend not only you, but the Saugeen Rail Trail Association, and the town staff as well. We've done a wonderful job, Mr. Mayor, with creating bike corridors north-south. And I talk about the Saugeen Rail Trail Association, I talk about the Shoreline Trail, and I talk about the Beaner Trails going north-south. We've got 3 corridors that run north-south that are pretty safe to ride bikes on. Where we're really lacking, and it talks about it in the Parks and Trails Master Plan and the town's official plan, we really lack in east-west corridors for cyclists to provide safe means of transportation to get from our shoreline up to the rail trail to the east. And so I think that by providing what you're doing here, Jane, recommending what you're recommending is a very smart plan. And I think that the Market Street is a start. And I'm going to be commenting on your next report about the importance of County Road 25, and you're also going to be talking about Concession 10. And I think we're moving in the right direction by providing east-west connecting links. We've done a great job north-south, but we've got to do a better job from east to west. So kudos to you, Jane, and thank you for your I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you. One more, Councillor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a follow-up to what Councillor Myatt just said, I think it is right on about an education program too, as you mentioned, and the need for increasing safety. I think it would behoove us to, at some point in the near future, really decide which roads are the roads that have the greatest potential for safety to be increased for cyclists, and we start to tell people, use those ones. I am supportive of all of this. However, at the same time, what is very obvious this year in Southampton anyway is the number of bicycles that are on the sidewalks. And, I'm sorry, those little walk your wheels things are not doing it. They're in the wrong places. They're not getting people off onto the road. And, the story is that they feel safer on the sidewalk. Well, okay, I agree with you about that. But at the same time, I'm on the sidewalk, and you're pushing me off the sidewalk when that's not fair either. So I would like to see over the next little while, and perhaps our Recreation Advisory Committee, because we have active transportation, we should be taking what's already been done with the Parks and Trails Master Plan and just, making some decisions about certain streets. And these share the road signs should be going up in more places, but we should be telling people, ride your bikes on these streets, so that people are perhaps discouraged or encouraged, I guess is a better way, a more positive way, to ride on certain streets instead of, putting their bike on the sidewalk on High Street or trying to ride a bike on High Street in Southampton, because that's part of the whole safety issue too. So I certainly applaud this initiative, but I and the next one coming up too, but I think we have a bigger issue with bikes on the sidewalk, which, let's not forget that people walk too, and people walk with strollers, which is a different kind of wheels, and we need to start to be more proactive at improving safety for those people too. Thank you very much.
I think the CAO would comment.
Through Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification. The new schedule to the official plan includes all of the east-west proposed active transportation routes. So we, in theory, have a council-approved strategy for all of those connections.
Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe that just answered my question. For the cost of a little bit of paint, would it not be prudent to put the chevrons on all the major roads, Market, Elgin Mill, Green, Gustavus, across, Waterloo, Wellington, Bruce. It's safety. It's getting the education out to people. All the roads are used by both cyclists and motorists. And if we had the chevrons on there for a little bit of paint, the education and safety aspect might increase for those people, and just brings it to mind a little closer. Okay, bikes are on this road. I got to be careful. Cars are on this road. If I'm riding my bike, I have to be careful. And it's both of them that have to be kind of reminded every now and then, because as Vice Deputy Mayor Huber said, the cyclists take advantage sometimes. They forget. They run corners. They're on sidewalks where they shouldn't be. But if we put these chevrons on the roads, it makes it a little more noticeable for everybody. Thank you.
I think staff are incrementally moving in that direction. There are some significant maintenance costs associated with both the signage in the first instance as well as the pavement markings themselves. But I hope that this report and the next report are an indication to council that staff are keenly aware of that.
One follow-up question. Do towns or municipalities designate themselves as bike-friendly towns?
Yeah, there's a designation that you apply for, similar to what we applied for a walk here. There's also a bike-friendly designation.
Is that something we might want to look into as part of this plan and what's coming up next to make ourselves designated as a bike-friendly community?
Yep, certainly a possibility.
Okay. If there's no further questions, then I'll ask the question. All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is another staff report, and it has to do with Ontario Municipal Cycling Infrastructure Program. And again, Jane's going to present.
Yes, on the same, similar topic, through the Ontario Municipal Cycling Infrastructure Program, the province of Ontario is investing $10 million over 2 years in municipal cycling infrastructure. The purpose of the fund is to help municipalities build and improve cycling infrastructure so that cycling networks are better connected, more recreational cycling opportunities exist, innovation in cycling infrastructure, and data collection. The maximum amount of the funds given to any applicant will be $325,000, and funds matched up to 50% are eligible. Staff is requesting permission to submit an expression of interest for consideration for a signed bicycle route with paved shoulder corridor from Washroom on the 10th concession at the trailhead to the North Shore Trail. It is recognized that the tourism value of providing a 1.8 meter extension on both sides of concession 10 from the washrooms to the trail for a total distance of 1,428 meters. Bike racks, signage identifying distances to destinations, and bike counters will be considered as part of the overall project. The 10th concession is recognized as an active transportation route in the official plan as well as an arterial road, and the notion of connecting the linkages from the Bena Trail is also identified in the 2004 Parks and Master Plan. The total cost of the estimated project is $110,000, and if 50% funding is obtained, it can be considered as part of the 2016 budget deliberations.
Thank you, Jane. Then the recommendation is that Council direct staff to submit an expression of interest to the Ontario Municipal Cycling Infrastructure Program for funding of bike lanes from the 10th concession trail head to the North Shore Trail. Questions, comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jane, I'm very happy to see this, and thank you for taking the initiative to apply for this. I really think that, as Councillor Matheson was talking about, making this a bike-friendly municipality is really important. I think it could be an important part of our tourism economic development strategy as well. I do have a question about one of the considerations, or I guess one of the things they're looking for in the grant application as being innovation in cycling infrastructure. Did you have plans to, we have some really experienced cyclists who've seen and experienced cycling infrastructure around the world, and I wonder if we could consider meeting with them to get some ideas when you're putting your application together.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm aware that there is an advocacy group within the community of Saugeen Shores for active transportation, and I have been conversing with them, not so much recently, but certainly last year, and I'm hoping that they've reformed again this year, that they could provide some insight to this project.
Vice Deputy Mayor Huber. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that even if the group is not assembled, I'm sure that, people like Laura, Jerry Boucher, people like that would be willing to sit down and chat with you individually.
Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize for that, Councillor. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you. My mind has gone blank, but I think it's Grey Road 17. Just outside of Owen Sound, Sutherland Construction just repaved a section, and Grey County, with no extra grants or anything, Grey County paid for incredible widths on those roads, but shoulders that go beyond a bike lane. Are you aware of this?
Not of that particular one, but I'm certainly aware of a large portion of the roads in Grey County that are bicycle friendly.
Well, this new one that they just finished paving, I would suggest that both you and Stuart, and even Larry, and maybe all of us go take a look and maybe even ride it. Apparently it's fabulous, and there's residents are now pushing Grey County to make that the standard for the way that they do road construction, and it's just whatever it is, it's just been amazing. So I see this as a good step. It's unfortunate that we just repaved Highway 21 and we didn't do anything on the shoulders. So I would really encourage you, and I believe it's Grey Road 17. I'll send you an email tomorrow. Sutherland's did the work. I know that. And it's apparently just been receiving wonderful accolades from cyclists and residents and people driving cars. And we should seriously consider that sort of initiative with every road project. Thank you.
Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Don, for letting me in. Obviously, I'm in favor of the concept of creating these east-west connections, and this is an important one for sure. And it reminds me of that when we were on the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee. This was an important connection that we wanted to make. The only question I have is the way that it may tie us into a budget impact next year if we're successful with this grant. And I just want to clarify what you're saying is, if we're successful in this application, are we then tied to making a $55,000 capital budget addition next year?
We're not obligated, and that will be determined through the budget deliberations.
Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question, why just from the, as it says, from the washrooms to the North Shore?
We costed it from the rail trail down to the bottom of the cost prohibited to do the entire portion. So we thought at least by doing this as a start, future funding does become available, we may consider
Go ahead.
We also are looking at reconstruction of part of the 10th as part of the future development in a few years, so another opportunity exists.
To go on with what Vice Deputy Mayor Huber said, Grey County is far ahead of us in cycling on their side roads, back roads. I envision seeing a County Road 10 right from the lake all the way around to Dahl Side Road with cycling lanes from the County Road 25 down to all along the shore road with the cycling lanes, which leads to something that could make Saugeen Shore stand above everybody else. We just finished the Tour de France on TV, and everybody, I don't know who was watching that, but something that isn't around here that Saugeen Shores could take in part of is have the first cycle road race with these roads and make it something, unique and bring more tourism and people to our community. If those facilities are available.
Just to comment a little bit on what you mentioned about the county did pave County Road 13, as you know, all the way up, and you can bike and then use some local roads from Southampton all the way to Sauble Falls. The vision is for that, which was part of the West Road, County Road 25, you would connect Kincardine with Lions Head with a bike trail on the west side of Bruce County as we redevelop those roads. So it's in the vision. They
just completed from County Road 3 on That's still County Road 10 that comes up the drive-in road, comes out to Dallside Road. Is that County Road 10?
It's Saugeen Shores Road.
So they just repaved that in the spring, did they not?
Yes, we did, yes.
So we missed an opportunity at that time to add on for those?
Potentially, I guess, yeah. We'll go with Councillor Mike Myatt.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to compliment Councillor Matheson for making the suggestion about bike-friendly community, and it was picked up by Councillor Grace as well. And we're doing some. The town of Saugeen Shores, I think, we need to take some credit with the wonderful job we've done in partnership with the Saugeen Rail Trail Association, with investing significant dollars in our trail system here in Saugeen Shores. And I agree with comments around the table that, as far as the tourism destination community for bike trails, look no further than Saugeen Shores. We've done a wonderful job here, and we need to feel really good about that. And I also want to pick up on a comment that our Vice Deputy Mayor made, Huber, was that, she talked about the paving of, bike shoulders, and I just want to mention that, again, maybe through to the clerk, if we could send out this link to the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services Cycling Death Review of the Office of the Chief Coroner. There was 11 recommendations made, and again, picking up on what our Vice Deputy Mayor said, one of the 11 recommendations made, and I'll read it, is prioritizing the development of paved shoulders on provincial highways. I think we could take that a little further and get into county highways and town of Saugeen Shores roads. So I think I'd encourage councillors to read that report, because there's 11 pretty solid recommendations contained within that chief coroner's out of that office, the chief coroner's office. So, a lot of the 11 things they're talking about in there, we're really doing quite well here in Saugeen Shores. And again, I want to commend Jane for making application to, for the funding for 10th concession from the rail trail, or for the woodland trail down through to the water. And I guess I have a question, Mr. Mayor, of you. I'm wondering if the county, I think we're doing a really, really good job with Market Street tonight. We talked about the 10th concession, and I take a look at Southampton Streetscape Plan provides a bike corridor from the water up to and help me with the corner. It's not. Thank you. I think we're doing a good job in marking out where east-west should run. But I wonder, Mr. Mayor, if you could take through to the county a question. I have a question about County Road 25. That is a heavily used corridor for cyclists and pedestrians, and I know you're well aware of that. And we've talked about paved bike shoulders in County Road 25 for a fair number of years. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you can help me understand this better, but is that road, two questions, a question and a request. Is County Road 25 due for reconstruction, repaving in the next 1 to 2 years? And my request is, could you take to the county a request to speed up the environmental assessment process, talking about County Road 25, and could you bring us up to date on where we're at with that project?
Yes, I can, and you're correct. The county has had it in a budget a number of years. There's a number of issues around that road, not just the repaving of it. There's drainage issues and negotiating with a number of developers. So the county had planned to do it this year. They do plan to, in the very near future, we will be doing an environmental assessment on it to determine what is the right and correct answer for that road and all the issues that surround it. And at that time, we will get an opportunity to comment on it. So we'll be kept in the loop as we get moving forward with it, Mike.
Mr. Mayor, just one last comment about County Road. It's concession tonight, but if I'd just like to go on record again by stating that I think one of the important east-west linkages for cyclists is County Road 25, and I hope that this council will take into consideration when the time is appropriate that we put in paved bike lanes, bike shoulders on County Road 25. I know it's in the plans, and I hope that we can partner with the county to make that happen, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further comment? Deputy Mayor Sherburne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's clear that we have been successful in Saugeen Shores with regard to bike infrastructure because, and it's interesting that Councillor Myatt raised the comment about the accident statistics across the province. If you look at Saugeen Shores' accident statistics with regard to pedestrians and cyclists and non-motorized incidents, they're extremely low. In fact, almost non-existent. We have virtually no accidents between cyclists and automobiles in the town of Saugeen Shores. At least, we review these statistics at Police Services Board on a semi-regular basis, and we have an excellent record in this community on that point. And I think that's because we've invested so heavily in cycling infrastructure. We have places off the road for people to ride. And my second point, Mr. Mayor, and I wasn't going to raise this, but since the 10th concession came up with regard to going all the way through to the rail trail, which will require another interaction with Highway 21, I have to say I laughed out loud when I read that the province of Ontario is encouraging innovation in cycling infrastructure with regard to this project. They seem completely and utterly opposed to innovation in cycling infrastructure when it comes to their own infrastructure. When it comes to their own infrastructure, they're not particularly interested in innovation at all. In fact, they duck and cover and move quickly under the cover of night to avoid encountering innovation of any kind. We attempted to innovate when it came to the crossing at Highway 21 in a place that I'm intimately familiar with, and we had no success with them at all. They moved quickly, they got their road constructed, and they got out, and we found and did that so quickly, and that we had no opportunity, we almost had no opportunity, but in fact we did, and were able, due to the fast work of Saugeen Shores staff, in our engineering department in particular, to provide an innovative solution for cycling infrastructure in that area, which was rebuffed completely rebuffed. So I think that I hope the province reads their own recommendations here and considers whether they should behave that way in future with their own infrastructure. And I guess what I would say with regard to our own activity for the 10th concession in future, if we are going to do that connection from the rail trail, which is a great idea, and I concur basically with everything that's been said by my colleagues on the subject of cycling, but we need to solve that problem. I mean, we're going to have to deal with how we get across Highway 21 in these east-west linkages. And we have to do it, and we have to get the province to listen on that. And I haven't spoken to this council on this subject yet, I don't think. But it's important that we keep that in mind, and that it's going to require, the only way we will accomplish that is through political pressure on the ministry. Our staff will try, but they cannot be successful at a staff level. We will have to put political pressure on the province of Ontario to make those connections happen across 21, and we need to do that. And we need to do that in advance of our attempting to connect up across this 10th concession corridor. So I hope that we can work on that actively over the next couple of years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now come back to the recommendation for the 10th concession. And we kind of stay focused on that for a little while. Any other questions on it? All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. So that is there are a number of items, I guess about 7 for Committee of the Whole information. And with that, that's any questions or comments to any particular one of those? They're there for your information. 4.8. Hang on. Okay, we'll start with you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comment relates to 4.82, and that's the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry piping plovers correspondence. And I just want to preface this by saying that I do understand federal legislation regarding our endangered bird. I get it. I understand that part. And I understand that the Minister of Natural Resources is doing their job. And I understand when piping plovers come in and they nest here like they did last year, and we have to fence off an area. I understand that. I have 5 bird feeders in my backyard seasonally. I like birds. So this is not a message about not liking birds are not agreeing with protecting piping plovers. I understand all that. My concern with the letter from the Minister of Natural Resources, and we have a great partnership with the Minister of Natural Resources. They're doing their job. I have received a large number of phone calls and requests from the public to do something about the condition of our Port Elgin Beach, and I'm relaying that to you, Mr. Mayor, and to Council. I have received lots of concerns about the condition of Port Elgin Beach in terms of not being able to take machinery onto our beach because it's a nesting area for piping plovers. I guess my question of staff is that is there a middle ground here where the male showed up this year? I understand that there was no nesting happened on our beach, and so the male did show up without the female, and so we didn't have to fence off an area, but my understanding is because they nested last year, and it's within 1 kilometer, that we're still not able to take machinery onto our beach to maintain the beach area. So my question of staff is there, can you bring us up to date? I know I see the letter here from the Minister of Natural Resources, but Jane, is there a middle ground here that we can reach in terms of if the nesting doesn't happen, can we step up maintenance? I'm talking about the beach now.
I think we know where you're going with it, Mike.
And I know I'm being long with this, Mr. Mayor, but I've heard a lot of concern.
Yeah, I have too, and I agree with you. I think the right approach, though, and Jane can probably direct us, this would be to contact the Ministry of Natural Resources and work something out, because they can work out plans, and you can sign agreements to plans, but it's their responsibility to enforce that act, and I'm sure they will, and the fines for corporation violations can be up to $1 million. So I think we need to work cooperatively with the Ministry of Natural Resources. And I think that's where we want to direct our questions, if that's, and I'm sure you've probably talked to them, Jane.
Sure. Yeah, I've spoken with them as recently as today, and I can tell you, I guess we've done this to ourselves somewhat when we talk about the grasses on the main beach, and I'll reiterate what I said to the previous councillors that were at this table in the last term, in the fact that we know that individuals don't like the grasses on the beach. And we've got grasses growing on the beach that we never had 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and those are sedges, and sedges thrive on wet beaches. And many of you in the room will remember the time when we used to grade our beaches every Friday. And each time we grade our beaches, we were getting lower and lower to the water table. We were turning the sand over, that top layer is drying, and that top layer becomes airborne. Hence the reason why we planted dune grasses on the Port Elgin main beach to capture that sand. We have what we call relic sand, and relic sand is old, and it's not a Myrtle Beach, it's not a Florida beach, it's a natural beach habitat on a fresh body of water. So as we graded each time, that sand became airborne, and we lost that sand, and we are now in what we call a repair mode in order to keep the existing sand that we have on the beach. So yes, we have a wet beach. We've done it, unfortunately, to ourselves because we've permitted to ourselves to grade every Friday, going into a weekend. Within the last about 7 or 8 years, we started grading 4 times, and that was leading into every long weekend. Then we had piping plovers that appeared, and that changed the stage somewhat for the way we maintained our beaches. And working closely with M&R, we've been specifically asked to grade twice now in the summertime. Now that's not saying that we can't change the way we maintain our beaches. It means that we have to look at a different way of how we maintain our beaches and get the heavy machinery off the beach to have a sustainable beach.
Okay, that probably answers your question. Okay.
And it just relates to beach maintenance standards and a beach maintenance manual, and it's through you to our Director of Community Services. Jane, when could we expect to see beach maintenance standards manual show up at the council table for our consideration?
I won't put a specific date on it, but what I will say is when we're content with the content, both with cooperation with Ministry of Natural Resources and Fisheries and with Lake Huron Coastal Conservation. We'll be working closely with them to ensure that we have a maintenance program that is conducive to our situation along, which isn't a cookie cutter maintenance plan. It isn't one that King Carden can adopt or Sewell Beach. It's conducive to what are functions that are happening on our beaches.
Councillor Minaj.
Well, I've done a scientific study, and I can tell you that this was the beach. This is the way it looked when the piping plovers arrived. It's not like that anymore. And in all honesty, they probably won't come unless we welcome them a little harder. And I think that we could do that by removing the swing sets, putting up the snow fence in the same place that we had it before, and putting up a sign that says "Plovers welcome here," and let them see that this is a viable spot for humans and birds to coexist. After that, I think we should do what we want to do with the rest of the beach, and I think that's a fair message. And if we have to discuss it and debate it, so be it.
Thank you. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
I'm just going to go in a slightly different direction and a different level of government. You know, it is interesting. They're wonderfully looking, cute little birds and all that kind of stuff. If you have not yet been out to Chantry Island, though, different level of government because it's the federal government. Migratory bird sanctuary. Birds are supposed to be protected out there. If you have not been out there this year, there's probably only still. Have you been out yet, Cheryl? There's probably only about 10 tall trees left standing, and I suspect that at least half of them are going to be gone next year. There is no habitat out there anymore for blue herons, and the egrets are still there because they're slightly lower on the trees than the blue herons were, but you know, the cormorant population has just taken over, and the seagulls are very they have replenished their stock quite admirably this year. There didn't seem to be as much damage to eggs this year as happened last year. But you talk about habitat destruction, that the federal government's doing nothing to ensure that some migratory birds that habitually have been in Chantry Island will be there in the future, because I think we've lost the blue herons out there. So I encourage all of you to take a tour. As another bird place in our community, it really has suffered a tremendous amount of devastation over the winter this year, and it's very noticeable when you're out there.
Thank you. Then that is the end of our agenda. Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
I just wanted to add, I had a call from a member of council about the Planning Advisory Committee minutes that were on the agenda. There was actually, and I guess it just didn't make the cut for the meeting, there was a follow-up meeting because there was an agenda item that was deferred, and we did have a meeting about a week later to actually deal with that particular issue. So we have actually put the wheels in motion related to the Max Milk development, and the application was deferred. There were three items in it that were questions. The committee was pretty okay with two of them. The third one was a bit hard to take, so we deferred, and some negotiation between the town and the developer led to some improvement in the request, and so it was passed. So there certainly will be some other minutes that you'll see that finish off that particular application. Thank you.
Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is with the number 4.84 Southampton BIA minutes, and really appreciate and respect Southampton BIA's desire to get going on the sesquicentennial. They're planning and they're organizing. I'm happy to tell you that as long as there isn't anyone else starting something in the Port Elgin ward, my wife and I will be hosting a first meeting for our effort here in Port Elgin this September, and ultimately we'd like to see the efforts joined, and something we'll be looking towards. And I'm hoping that once we see the upswell of support and what could happen on July 1st, 2017, that all of council and all of staff will be actively involved, and I'll bring it forward to budget deliberations as well. Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Jane?
Yeah, if I could just add to that
Absolutely.
comment. I've met with Joanne Robbins, and we're in the process of planning a sesquicentennial information meeting in September for all of Saugeen Shores as well.
Thank you. So, I guess with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Madison and Deputy Mayor Charbonneau, all in favor? We'll take a 10-minute break and reconvene in council.